Okay, welcome back, U.S. Chess, U.S. Virgin Islands International Chess, and ISV International Chess. We are back to the Olympiad Playad with, I think, the 7th or 8th video now of the campaign and the tour. And we have another game from Connor. This is Connor's next result against a title-rated player, part 3. So this is titled Connor Crushes Another Titled Player, part 3. And in this game, we're going to go over the game played between Connor and Cyril Thomas Montel Jr. of Palau. Palau's board 1 player. And this is just another monster of a game. And the more games I look at of Connor, the more I wonder how much I really know about chess, guys. And that's honestly how I feel about all this. Going over his games and looking at his games. This game in particular, now this one we're going to look over, is another work of art and a masterpiece. So please follow along with me and join me in this wonderful adventure of going through Connor, our board 1 player's mind, and learning from him. So guys, we have an English opening in this game. Mr. Montel Jr. had the white pieces in this game, rated somewhere I think around 1800 or so, and Connor had the black pieces, and he goes again for this modern defense. Why stop playing the modern defense when it's working for you every time? This is probably the philosophy of Connor, what he's understanding. Why would I change up my opening repertoire with black when it's working out so well? So he answers correctly again, and let's see why he answers correctly again to this English with bishop to G7, bishop G2, both sides fianchettoing their kingside bishops, D6, knight F3, and Connor goes for an early F5, which is kind of a surprise move. It was better to develop the knight, of course, or even play c5. c5 is a nice move. But after f5 and e3, we get into a lot of book moves here, book move theory world after knight f6, so to speak. And guys, after knight f6, we say that because this knight from g to e2 is a standard book move. And we will get to see why in the position in this English attack, why this is book. Well, castles here is a book move, dark green square. And castles here is also a book, dark green square. Okay, guys, castles, book territory still, e5 and d3. e5 turns out to be a book move as well, guys. Wow, so the engine says that this position is extremely well known, and this is not anything close to out of something theoretical. The best move in the position played, which should have been played, guys, excuse me, by Mr. Thomas Cyril, was d4. C3, D3 was not best, pardon me, D3 was not best, but D3 was played, a quest to somehow maybe keep things together here in the center of the board. He didn't want to open the position with D4, but it turns out D4 was best, but instead Connor's opponent played D3, and after C6, Connor started to come up with things, playing a little magic here with horse to A6, a knight out on the rim. B4 after playing to rook B1, getting the rook on the probably a file that white wants to open up eventually here in the future, guys. That was the reason for rook to b1. Okay, we see knight to c7, best move played by Connor. A4, more expansion on the queen side, looking to go after these black pawns, trying harder. White's just pushing pawns now on the queen side. Connor says that's all right, d5's good, we'll chop here, and expecting a chop with cd5, cd5, and d4. Now Connor can choose to either open up the position more, but he's not going to do that. He's going to play the best move in the position, guys, and that's e4. So let's stop here, look a moment, and take a look at the position after 13 moves. Connor here with the black pieces, now with a closed position, and white with a fianchettoed bishop on g2, a bishop still on c1, not any moves yet played by that light-squared bishop, a knight on c3, 2 rooks, rook on b1, and this looks like a pretty even position, but Connor is showing that he is improving in the center of the board with e4. So I would much rather play again with black in this position. I would much rather play with Connor in this game. As I've said about every game in the ISV national team games that Connor has played with us so far in the Olympiad, I would say in every game that I've covered by his so far that I would rather be on his side of the board and have his positions. He is finding positional advantage after positional advantage in every game that he plays in his quest to keep winning. And it's happening, so it's no joke. Rook to f7, and I think his FIDE ratings performance, ELO, has enough to say about that. G5 and rook to c1, played by Connor. Knight to f6, b5, b6, Rook c2, bishop b7. Now just making moves, both teams just trying to make threats at one another, kind of jousting with the swords, if you will, in a fencing match. Bishop to h3 and knight to g4. Bishop to c1 now rerouting. This dark squared bishop for Team White wants to get to the d2 square. And that's exactly what Connor's opponent goes for here in this match. h5 now, excellent move. Rook to c1. Now we get double pawns on the c file, and maybe the gentleman here from Palau is going to offer one of those rooks on the c file. And that's exactly what he does after knight to a2. We see rook captures, and f5, f4. And now Connor wants to open things up on the king side finally after this queen side exchange of rooks. Bishop takes on g4, h takes on g4, which is very logical, by the way, this whole exchange. e4, gf4, gf4, bishop d4 now. Connor is winning a pawn in the center of the board. And I believe that he calculated this line, and I believe that he saw bishop to d4 after all these exchanges. So he initiated the opening of the king side, and not only that, winning himself the d4 pawn, which always seemed to be like a weakness, especially with the knight here on e6 square, guys. So enough attention given there to Connor for his masterful depth, as usual in this tournament. Nothing short of what he's done previously already. He just keeps doing it and proving that he can do it against other opponents. Bishop to c5, dropping back, h3. Excellent is d4 now. d4 is a major threat. Obviously, he's going for the fork. The double attack on d3, the knight on e2, and the rook on c2. Rook g7 played by Connor. H takes on g4, and now this is where it just gets really, really juicy from Connor, and where the action really starts to pick up after move 30. So Connor's opponent on move 31 goes for h takes on g4, but was he expecting from Connor knight captures on f4? And yes, this is the best position in the game. It appears as though maybe that you're creating some sort of easier position for white. Maybe you're just giving up the knight or whatever. But anyways, if you decide to capture with the knight, which maybe looks like a decent move, then you get this continuation from black, and that is just rook captures. And how to get the queen out of the way to this skewer, right? What do we do here? I'm losing the queen, right? And the game, okay? So that is why knight takes knight is not allowed, okay? Instead, going for the sacrifice, and Mr. Thomas Jr. here from Palau, number one, going for king to f1, moving out of the way. And now comes rook to g4 anyway from Connor. Oops. Queen to h2, knight e2, king e2, and e3 is crushing. Okay, so queen to b8, check to Connor's king there. He didn't go to h7. He went to f7, which was best. But let's go back to this for a second. e3, like we mentioned, is crushing. You can't capture here. If you capture, then there's d3, moving back one square. And I'm pretty sure Connor can win this very, very easily with the black pieces. And I don't think there's anything to worry about at all either in this game. We could go over here if you want to check again. There's king can go to h7. And where's this white queen? Where's this white king going? You got the queen, the rook, you got the bishop. Excuse me, you got the queen, the rook, the two bishops, right? It's all over, okay? So in the game, what we saw was d3 check after this check, and king to f7, so Connor moves to the best square. Connor moving to the best square, ladies and gentlemen. King to f7. And chopping, fe3, and not chopping back. Connor says, no, no, no. d3 check is correct, and you are lost, completely lost. King to d1, bishop f3 check, king to e1, bishop to d6 now. And anybody else would probably just throw in the towel here, but it's the Olympiad, so the opponent from Palau here played queen to h8, and now bishop to g3 check to the white king. King goes to f1, bishop e2 check. And that was enough for Connor's opponent. And yet another masterclass and a wonderful game played by Connor. This was Connor Crushes Another Titled Player, Part 3. And we are getting a taste of Connor Eickleman, guys. Okay, so we all need to really look at these games and recognize what a wonderful team player we have. Guys, everyone else is doing an excellent job too. Let's not exclude Justin and Michael. And David got a win today, the only player to win a game in round 7 against Tanzania. So that was excellent. David, congratulations on your win. David, we're going to cover your match 2 as well, okay? We noticed you got a win against a titled player, Candidates Master. Congratulations. And we will cover that game as soon as we get the PGN thread. So take care, guys. Much more to come. We got David Konhoff's win coming up next in the playlist, guys. Take care. Take care. This is your host, Colin Heim. Good luck with your chess online and over the board. Much more to come in the future. And as always, guys, see you on the other side of the chessboard. Take care, everyone. Bye, guys.